They give them guys a couple 100,000 years, and they're going to be people. They're going to be in kindergartens. That's going to be the 100,000 years from now. That'll be the leftists. They'll want the chimps to be in schools with our children, and they're like they'll be like, mutilations are at an all-time low. Like the last time a kinder ape turned on a human.
The left wants this orangutan in your daughter's bathroom.
Yeah.
We need to shut it down.
Yeah.
What's the difference? And it's just like a picture of an orangutan tearing a door off of a stall and beating a maintenance man to death.
And then there's like the smartest, most well-spoken orangutan you've ever seen on CNN. And he's just like, it's bigotry. It's bigotry, and I won't stand for it.
Charles, I grew up, but now we're going to hear from Mr. Marbles. Mr. Marbles, what do you think about that?
I remember the cages and the keepers. He'd be so poignant. You'd be like, let him in the bathroom.
Yeah,
they go back to eating the kids. They can't let them in there. You saw it on Capitol Hill, right? They passed through that legislation so that the rule, I guess, where that trans lawmaker can't use the men's bathroom or the women's bathroom, right?
I haven't been that clued in on like the follow-up.
Yeah, so we've got this election cycle, I guess just now we've got our first trans lawmaker, and so immediately, I don't know her name, it's a Republican woman. She they spearheaded this thing and made sure that they passed a rule so that she couldn't use the women's room.
And she's like mad about it now?
No, she's like, okay. She said okay. But it was a bit of a stink.
Oh. But bada bing, bada boom. Problem solved. First of many problems to be solved by Donnie
Plenty
J.
of problems to come.
Were you surprised by the election, Richard?
It's hard to say because benefit of hindsight, right? I think a lot of people leading up to it were kind of, but everyone I talked to, literally everyone I talked to, maybe I'm in an echo chamber or whatever. I like to think that I'm not, but everyone had a lot of the same frustrations. Not everybody talked about who they were voting for, but
that's a good sign.
Yeah, right. And I think that is why, right? Because it was the silent majority that really showed up. I mean, it was the same thing as 2016. People were being ridiculed for, not being happy with inflation, not being happy with the cost of everything from groceries to housing. People who owned shit, they got rich in the last 4 years. Their houses and stuff went up, or their stocks and their portfolios and everything else. But people who actually live either paycheck to paycheck or don't own their home and shit, they got fucking hammered, man. And so I think a lot of people were just like, hey, look, you can yell at you can complain about abortion all you want, but the fact of the matter is the Obama-Biden administration had the opportunity to codify Roe, and they didn't. Why? Well, probably because it's a great thing to raise campaign funds off of. And
when did they have the supermajority to codify Roe?
That was 2008, 2010.
When they did the ACA instead.
Yeah. And so it was okay, again, I don't abortion's one of those things where there's a massive discrepancy in people who believe that life begins at a certain point, and understandably you can.
We're all certified,
right? And so understandably there can be drastically varying opinions and why it's a hot button topic. But to say things like, okay, certain things that impact every single American or people in other countries, the devaluation of the dollar, the economy and all these other different things. It's there are a lot of pressing issues. And just because people don't like, Trump as a, how he speaks about other people, be it little Marco or whatever, or Pocahontas and stuff. Yeah, he might be off-putting to a lot of people, but the fact of the matter is, the last 4 years, a lot of people are fucking hurting. You look at the response to things like, the hurricanes in Appalachia and everything else to, again, I'm going to beat the dead horse, woe is me, and Kyle in that, but you look at tech companies over the last 10, 15 years and how they put their thumb on the scale saying what is socially acceptable, i.e. firearms are not. It's like that's very, very frustrating to a lot of people who just want to live their lives. And if something's legal, leave them the fuck alone. Like, if you're a consenting adult or you're doing something that's legal, like, you shouldn't be like persecuted for it. And I think a lot of people wanted to virtue signal. I know some of these buzzwords like virtue signaling get used a lot now, but it's true. People found it very easy to signal to other people that I'm for Kamala, or, you know, the Harry Sissons and stuff like that, where they're like rising up against the oppressors, but you're not the oppressors anymore, or you're not being oppressed anymore. You are the oppressor. You know, and that is really frustrating to a lot of people who are like, I just want to live a fucking normal life, man. And I don't want to see what little bit of savings I have get devalued. And I don't want to have to pay twice as much for groceries or gas and everything else. Like,
so how do you put that with the fact that America's inflation is not as bad as it is elsewhere in the Western world?
Because it's
right?
It's not.
You blame Biden for inflation, but it's worse we're in places where Biden wasn't in charge.
Well, so the thing, I think that you look at COVID and that response it's fortunate for Americans in that the dollar is the reserve currency for most productive countries out there outside of BRICS now. But for us, it wasn't as bad. But you look at the amount of spending that went up based off of bailouts in 2008. You look at 2020, and Trump did spend a lot of money too. But I think the response and shutting everything down really fucked the economy. And so a lot of businesses said, hey, look, what are we going to do? It's supply chain. And they got really fucking greedy. They blame things on supply chain and COVID, but they had healthy margins, and public companies reflected that. And they couldn't hide that, right? And that's why some people were like, they're gouging and everything. We wouldn't be in this situation if the COVID response was just more libertarian-esque and just said, hey, you know what? It fucking sucks. We're going to try to set up medical facilities and support teams and everything else, but we can't shut down the economy and our infrastructure. If people want to live their lives, let them fucking live their lives. You can't arrest people for going out fucking surfing on a beach or, going to a park.
Well, they did.
Yeah. I know, but that's what I'm saying. And I think that's why the silent majority in this was very much like 2016. They were like, hey, look, I'm tired of being fucking ridiculed on social media because I'm not in the in crowd, which I do think that has shifted in the last few years. You do see a lot of people, specifically on the right side of the aisle, to include the libertarians, have become a little bit more socially acceptable in those perspectives. And like, hey, look, maybe the pendulum should swing a little bit more back this other way. It's just the fact of the matter is the pendulum swung so fucking far left that people who were in the center now look like they're on the right. No, we're right of you, but we're still in the center. You just went so far to the left that everything's right to you.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned I understand what you're saying totally. You mentioned that guy Harry Sisson. Yeah. He's like this he was like a meme on Twitter. He was like this guy who was paid by Democratic organizations, like a 22-year-old.
Well, that's what they don't fucking disclose. They don't disclose that they're being paid.
Yeah, well, they don't. It's obvious to anyone that they're being paid, but like, and they do the same political thing where they can be like, actually, I've never taken $1 from this organization, and it's like, oh, well, you took money from this organization that took it from this, that receives it from this slush fund. But regardless, this guy's like whole thing was like trying to make it seem cool to vote for Harris, and being if he did it so inefficiently, if you would have called him an agent provocateur, I would have believed you. Like if he was like, guys, I'm going to make it look as gay as possible to be a Democrat. Like that's what he did.
What's
and he was like Harry Sisson.
Yeah, I recognize his face. That's how the Democrats feel about Trump when he like goes to non-union auto manufacturers and says unions for Trump, right? When he goes to the fucking firemen and then has people wearing firefighters for Trump that aren't firefighters. Like they're cosplaying. Sometimes it's the same people at the rallies.
Yeah.
pretending to be auto workers that also pretend to be fire workers that also pretend to be whatever. Yeah, it's a great job. But we're calling out, I guess, someone for paying Henry Sisson for supporting Democratic stuff, but we're not saying a word about Trump, who did the same thing times 100, right? Hundreds of people showing up at rallies, cosplaying as union people, wearing their hard hats.
Trump was bringing hundreds of people dressed up?
Yeah, the auto union thing, they hand out
none of those were workers,
and they gave them hard hats. They all have brand new shiny hard hats, pretending that they were blue collar workers, and they were paid.
So I think all those people at his rallies are like paid.
Well, now you're being a strong.
You think all those workers
at a Trump rally is paid? I think the people who
just hundreds of them, right,
pretended to be auto workers and weren't were.
I know that
firefighters and weren't were.
I know when he announced his candidacy in 2015 that everyone in that room was paid $50 to be there. Like when he came down the escalators and all those people are holding signs and cheering, like they rounded up people and paid them $50 to be there for that.
Stuff like that. I mean, like 2 weeks before the election, Harris put out a statement that she was doing forgiveness loans for black men, specifically $20,000. She also put out she was doing forgiveness loans for Hispanic men specifically for $20,000. Do you think that like nationwide promise is a bigger deal?
News and lies that spread so much, and that's a frustration for that thing that we spread about Beyonce getting $10 million and that whole thing. Wasn't true. That came from an Instagram post from some asshole. Like the celebrities would come out and be like, "What? I didn't get that money. That's not true."
Oprah got paid.
Oprah got more. Oprah got more.
I did hear about Oprah, but I'm saying we talk about Beyonce forever. Like she didn't even sing. We didn't get our money's worth. It wasn't true.
So now they're saying she didn't get 10 million because I've seen it in a lot of places that she did.
Yeah, it came from an Instagram post. That was the genesis of it.
Well, let's see if Zach can find us something. The whole point of this
politics, just like it's a losing battle because you're.
I wish it was based in truth.
Trying to get to something.
Like, I have no problem with people having different views than me. I love it. Right? I can respect it. The issue is when like they're basing their views on some sort of lie, something that didn't really happen.
Yeah, that happens a lot in politics.